Distinguished guests, dear students, welcome to our seminar organized by the Department of Politics and Economics. I would like to welcome you all on behalf of our academic team. And today we feel very privileged because we had a chance to invite dear Professor Hüseyin Bağcı from Middle East Technical University for our first seminar, fall seminar series. Hocam, you are still young, but let me say that you are the professor of the professors, hocaların hocası. It's an honor for us to see you once again in Türkiye. What was the last time? Quite a long time ago.
I became associate professor here.
You became associate professor, then you had a chance to maybe became for other reasons, but quite a long time after, now we had a chance to see in this very prestigious room, Şeref Salonu, Hüseyin Hocam. Welcome once again, and I would like to also thank to our Professor Orhan Deniz, our dean, for hosting Hüseyin Bağcı at that faculty. And I would like to also thank our students, plus students coming from Middle East Technical University. They are also supporting their professor, and it's good for us to see you here as well. So, Hocam, the floor is yours. We are ready to listen to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam. First of all, it's very nice to be here again. It is a historical, important university. Again, I came here when I was young and innocent first, in 1983. So I was suggested actually to work here, but then I saw Middle East Technical University and I fell in love. Not because of the university, but the circumstances made it possible. But my heart always here. I have a lot of friends here, academic friends, other students, as somebody said, including Prof.Dr. Who was a good colleague of mine. I was one who sent him to Germany to study, and he became a great man now. And also, I would like to stress that the students from Middle East Technical University and Siyasal faculties come together and listen and create a bridge. I am a bridge builder and peacemaker in international politics. What we, and by the way, maybe I may welcome also to our guest, with your permission. Mr. Peter Kohl is the son of former German Prime Minister, Bundeskanzler Helmut Kohl. Edith Susan Kohl, she was a good friend of us. So we are in the same group talking about the problems of Germany and German-Turkish relations, but also my dear colleague, Dr. Mahmoud. She is also graduated from Middle East Technical University, made her PhD and teaching now at the university. Besides that, we have a common consulting company called Ankuda. Now, what I will tell you today is, most of you about Turkey, Turkish foreign policy, but I will try to emphasize certain points so that you can look probably from different perspectives. This is why I start with the world order and then put Turkey there. World order is a term, as you can read in the book of Henry Kissinger, World Order, also published in Turkish, how the empires establish their structures. We have Pax Romana, Pax Ottomana, Pax Britannica, Pax Sovietica. It means if you are not against my system, you are a good guy. If you are against me, then you are my enemy and you pay the price. I'm not referring to Donald Trump, what he does in recent days. Maybe we will come also to this, but you may also not forget that we have already 102 years of our republic, modern Turkish republic, and this university is before the republic was founded in 1859 from the Ottoman Empire. So from empire to the republic, in other words. Why empires exist and why empires decline is another question. As Paul Kennedy says in his book, Rise and Fall of Great Powers, Büyük Güçlerin Yükseliş ve Çöküşleri, the empires come up, arrive at certain zenith, and then go down. So empires, territories are always non-natural. They are artificial borders. They change always according to the developments. But there are empires, like the Roman Empire, which was controlling the entire territories during that time. Then we have Mongol Empire, Chinese Empire. Empires also bring civilization. So the civilizational point is also very important. If you talk an empire, it is not just military, just the borders, but the way of living. This citizenship, Roman citizenship, for example. Today, if you are a member of the European Union, you have your passport as the European Union citizen. You could be Dutch, you could be Spanish, you could be Greek, but you are European Union student. European Union is not an empire, but the people come together and they build a common strengths, and they develop a certain tradition, certain values. Is why European Union, for example, is mostly value-based organization. Human rights, freedom of speech, religious freedom, etc., which is not like the others, like BRICS, like Shanghai Cooperation, that they come only for transactional togetherness. So transactional means I give you and you give me, so we understand each other. It's a trade. At the moment, the international politics, unfortunately, getting more and more this transactional. But within this concept, since 1492, since the discovery of America, we have 7 different world order discussions, which I teach in my PhD seminars in detail. So what we deal now is actually the world order from 1919 until today. First, this 20 years period, 1919 to 39, interwar period. As we know that all the wars between 1914 and 1939 are having the international character, world wars. We do not say a war between Russia and Ottoman Empire, for example, but we talk about the war with several from nearly all continents participation. So I think yesterday there was a saying that the Turkish foreign minister was very happy when the foreign minister from Finland was talking. The only empire that Russians have been afraid was the Ottoman Empire. And this is true, because Turkey and the Ottoman Empire and Russian Empire, they fought 13 times altogether. We are very experienced in fighting the Russians, and the Russians are very experienced fighting the Turks. Even there is a film from Serbia. There is a scene, maybe we should send it later on to you. 2 guys are speaking, and 2 Serbians. One of them says, "Do you know the World War started? There are Italians, British, Germans, etc." And the other one smoking and says, "Are the Turks there?" He said, "No." He said, "What type of war is it? If the Turks are not there, it is not a war." So this is, again, a very interesting metaphor maybe to see that the Ottoman Empire and the successor of this, say, Turkey, is having, if you want, this historical baggage. Wherever you go, doesn't matter in the world, that you come from Turkey is a reason to be attacked. We kill the Arabs, we kill the Kurds, we kill the Armenians, we kill this, that, etc., etc. As Zeki Kunera, ambassador in 1963 in Madrid, he said, "To be a Turk is very difficult because everybody is attacking you, but it is at the same time so nice. because your history is a great history. And this is why we, the Turks from today, we have the continuation of the Ottoman Empire, and we may not reject the reality. Yes, it is a new republic, but we cannot deny the fact today what happens in Gaza, what happens in Ukraine, or what happens in Caucasia, that you cannot be somehow out of the developments. At the end of the day, you will be there. You are one of the most important subjects. Last night, we have been in Gazi or Devi. There was a celebration. 8th of November is the Victory Day of Azerbaijan. I don't know whether there are Azerbaijani students. Unless you are Azeri student, you then understand what it means to be a Turk. Because without Turkish support, without Turkish military contribution, Azerbaijan, with all their great history, of course, they would have difficulties to get their lands. 20% of their lands have been occupied by the Armenians since 1988. So, why I'm telling you this? There is a military parade of the Turkish military from Bolu Commando today. That they make a walk in the city, and the Azeris waving their flags. It is like the film, in the film of Star Wars. All having the same clothes, the same aid, the same moves. When you see this, then suddenly you get more nationalistic feelings. They are strong, they are fine, and they saved or helped to save the territories of our neighboring country. But the main idea of Turkey, modern Turkish Republic, is, since 100 years actually, a search trying to be trying to get security provider and not security consumer. This term, security provider and security consumer, is a very important definition. If you are a security provider, it means that you solve the problems, you bring peace among the conflicting parties. But if you are security consuming, it means that you are a threat. Sometimes maybe this is the problem of certain countries. You can have good ideas. It all depends how the others view you. The perception of the others are sometimes more important than your own perception. You can be saying, I'm really so good guy. It depends from which perspective you look. We have 10 neighboring countries, 11,000 kilometer borders, and I can tell you it is not easy to survive in this geography. In this geography, the survival is the most important one. And we are not like several European countries. You wake up in the morning, there are all democratic countries, no problem at all. You can only fight among the soccer games. By the way, Galatasaray won last night, 3-0. I'm very happy, Galatasaray supporter. But what is more important here is that you will be perceived as a threat. And all these smaller neighboring countries consider always the strongest neighbor as a threat. This is the fact of realpolitik. I think modern Turkish Republic has been, from the very beginning, under Atatürk, the founders of the state, they tried first of all to get the integration into the international community. The philosophy, peace home, peace abroad, Yurtta barış, cihanda barış, is a wonderful philosophy according to the zeitgeist from this period. Because World War I finished, Turkey was established in 1923. Just last week we celebrated 29th of October. Then for the next 15 years until 1939, modern Turkish Republic was trying to get with the neighboring countries a peace process, tried to give the impression that Turkey is not interested to have any territorial claims, except today a problem with Iraq. What is more important, Atatürk was trying to establish Balkan Pact in 1934 with Romania, with Greece. And Turkey was one of the countries which tried to get in the Balkans security, because the domestic reforms had to be strengthened, and the first 15 years that Turkish Republic was coming up economically, politically, militarily, that Atatürk was trying to create a chain of secure environment. The second one is Sadabat Pact from 1937 in Iran. I was in Sadabat Palais. I saw the original signatures of Turkish statesmen and the Iranians, Iraqis and Afghanistan. Very interesting that today, when you look to Afghanistan, to Iran and Turkey, at the same time they started to modernize themselves, and you see their positions in the international politics as well as in regional politics. So this geography here, Atatürk was trying to get the West under security, and then in the East also with those neighboring countries, that Turkey should push up the modernization in education, in technology. But the Turkish military was still not so much developed, as we will see later on, that when Turkey wanted to join NATO, the Turkish military army structure was second-class army. So Turkey had to reform itself. And now, when you look today, that the Turkish defense industry is making very much important steps forward, is very important development. At least I'm one of the academics who worked on it, and we published also articles about this. Turkey's strategic choice to buy or to sell the weapons. Turkey was buying weapons always, even today, as the Eurojet fighters are there, but Turkey is also trying to produce weapons like Altay tank, like Khan, like Hürjet, and Turkey is now also among the countries which sells weapons abroad. This year, it will be more than $10 billion export that Turkish defense industry producing and selling. Why I'm telling you this? To understand from a country which was coming out from the war, very weak, very in economic and I would say military terms, backward. But now the Turkish policy, at least in this field, is making very good progress, and that the Turkish drones, Turkish tanks and Turkish jet fighters will be sold more in future. It is a good development, but it is not good development for those people who are suggesting the peace, that the war is always dangerous. Yes, it is true. The wars are dangerous, but the wars are the engine of the development. Yuval Noah Harari, the Israeli academic, he made a search. He said in every 100 years, since 16th century, there is a pace of militarization of the countries or empires in every 100 years. Probably your generation is now witnessing this another militarization of the world. Since yesterday, Americans decided again to make nuclear tests. It's a very dangerous development. If it is so, then we will talk more about the possibility about nuclear war will be occupying our minds. But from Turkish perspective, again, I make this jump from here to there just to make the compare. It is not a classical lecture what I tell here, it is a conference. It is something that we have to see what happened before and where Turkey is moving. 100 years of Turkish history. The biggest problem, ladies and gentlemen, is the security. In Turkish we call it beka sorunu. Maybe you heard many times this beka sorunu. Why? Because all the states want to survive. Survival is the basic principle of any nation state. So this is, of course, if you have security, unreliable security environment, what you do, you try to create alliances around yourself, and you develop good relations, try to develop good relations with your neighboring countries. Just 15 years ago, we were talking about the zero problem with the neighboring countries. Ahmet Davutoğlu, the former foreign minister and prime minister, was saying this. And one of the advisors to French President Nicolas Sarkozy said to me, first of all, it is very good on the paper, but it is very difficult in the field to have zero problems. Never forget, Leo Trotsky said, you may be not interested in war, but the war is certainly interested in you. So this psychological way of thinking makes these states to have stronger neighbors, to have military alliances, and to get support from the bigger countries. This is what Turkey also done and still does. The Turkish membership into NATO is a very interesting story. We will talk also about this. But for us, what is more important that the Turkish foreign and security policy in the historical context from 1923 to 1939, beginning of the war, Turkey was very calm, trying to get all the neighboring countries together, but the war started. 1939 was very interesting start, because the age of X is called the interwar period, where certain countries like Germany, like America, like China, like Britain and France, they were mostly dominating the League of Nations. The United Nations is the subsequent organization of the League of Nations. The League of Nations have been dominated mostly by French, by British and their relations to the colonial countries. But for Turkey, it was clear that the countries of the European powers, like France and Britain, after World War I, they were coming also to Turkey, trying to have good relations. 1919 Versailles Treaty is very important. The 1919 and 1999, 2 dates. 1919 Versailles, 1999 Istanbul Conference. So 2 big conferences where all the European countries came together, and we had a very pleasant discussion between Boris Yeltsin and Bill Clinton. They used very harsh words towards each other. We miss the statements of Donald Trump when he says all the countries' leaders come here and they try to kiss my check, they say. He says, you know what I mean. But what is more important here, that Turkey was having this strategy from 1919 to 1923, ya istiklal ya ölüm. So it was the period of Turkish independence war, but World War II, Turkey was very cleverly, it is also my view, Turkey was not joining World War II. Selim Deringil's book is very important here. İkinci Dünya Savaşı'nda Türk politikası is very interesting because Turkey was tried to be dragged in to the war, and İsmet İnönü was rejecting not to participate in the World War II. Even Winston Churchill came to Adana, not to eat Adana kebab and drink şalgam. On the contrary, tried to take Turkey into the war. The discussion also by Zehra Önder, Bilgi Yayınevi, İkinci Dünya Savaşı'nda Türk dış politikası. The book shows also the documents how, for example, countries like Germany they wanted to get through Turkey to Iraq, to Middle East. Exactly like in 2003, when the Americans came to Turkey, wanted to get their army from Mersin port to northern Iraq. It was not first time, it was the second time in our history that foreign countries wanted to pass through Turkey to Middle East. And in both cases, Turkey rejected. And this was also one of the reasons why the Turkish-American relations had a very difficult period. And then Kurtlar Vadisi became well known, all this, Polat Alemdar and the others, how they were fighting against the Americans, etc. You see, not only the Hollywood filmmakers made the films about the wars, yeah? Like Air, like World War II, or the death of soldier Ryan. Very, very interesting. The film industry is also using the type of things, and we learn also a lot from the films. But for us, important point is that the Turkish-American relations have been very teaching, I can tell you. Deniz Bölükbaşı's book is very interesting. Bir Mart Tezkeresi. He wrote the book Bir Mart Tezkeresi. I suggest to everyone to read it to understand the Turkish-American negotiation process. Ambassador Namıktan now is a politician. He was part of the negotiations here in Ankara. And he said, during the lunch, I went to see my mother. She was old, so just within 1 hour, 30 minutes, go to Çankaya, come back, and then continue negotiations. And she said, her mother said, "Oğlum, what are you doing?" She said, "Mama, we debate with the Americans about the possible soldier exchange, etc." And she said, "Oğlum, dikkatli olun. Amerikalılara güvenmeyin." She said, "Mother, I am part of the negotiation." Olsun. Sen yine de güvenme. So this is the Turkish basic behavior. We don't trust to others. And many people think that the Turks are always doing what the American side says. No, it is not. George Harris' book, Turkish-American Relations, a Troubled Partnership, is the best one. We are troublemaker in NATO, in the historical context. But why Turkey has been important within the Cold War years? Because with the Truman Doctrine, of course, America looked to the Middle East, to the Near East, from the perspective that all the air, sea, and land routes are passing through this country. We are geopolitically and geoeconomically a country which no other country can ignore it. The location is important. Whether you have Gecekondu on your land or skyscrapers, it is your problem, but the land is very important. So this geography is very expensive one. And everybody has interest, of course, to be here. We come back to Bekasorun again. If in future you become politician, statesman, diplomat, value, whatever it is, then you will remember today's discussion. This country's territory is so important that we do not appreciate it until we go out. Last week I was in Romania. I mean, Romania, with all my respect, nobody cares. Because they do not control Black Sea, they do not control the Balkans, they do not control Caucasia, they do not control Middle East. Wherever you look, we are like this Cem Yılmaz statement, little into the middle. This is very interesting. We have everything here in this. So this is why every Turkish diplomat, statesman has to know the history, all history, modern history, and not to make mistakes in future. Also with the United States of America, the Turkish relations to big powers which is very important. In the New World Order, Turkey is revising her position to the power centers. As Henry Kissinger called, there are 4 power centers in the world: America, China, Russia, and the European Union. I didn't say India yet, but India is coming up, but not so power center as these 4 countries and the economic organization. So why it is important? Because in the Cold War years, Turkey was having different positions to China and to Soviet Union, and Americans became Turkey's strategic partner. America is the strongest power, and we are number 2 in NATO, concerning the military number of soldiers. And Americans, at the moment, Donald Trump understood Turkey, and his policy is not like before, from 2016 2020. They changed their grand strategy. The Turkish geopolitics doesn't matter who is ruling Turkey. I'm not talking about the names, who is power in Turkey. Doesn't matter who is in power. For American grand strategy, Turkey is one of the countries as a global player, a global changer, and some say even kingmaker. So this is why in the recent years, when you look to China, to Soviet, to America, to Russia, and to European Union, that suddenly the same administration, which was very strongly criticized just before COVID and after the period of COVID, and suddenly all the Europeans are coming here one by one, trying to sell jet fighters like Eurofighters. So many years they were not providing this. Guido Steinberg, I give the name, from Stiftung für Wissenschaft und Politik, 2 years ago, 2023 in Berlin, Hotel Ritz, we have the conference, Chatham House, Konrad Adenauer Foundation, and University of Kiel. The guy was speaking. Guido is expert on the Middle East, by the way, Guido Steinberg. He was talking that Europe should give jet Eurofighters to Saudi Arabia. I stood up, I said, just a minute. Why do you not provide Eurofighters to Turkey, but to Saudi Arabia? What makes Saudi Arabia? Is it a democratic country? Is it member of NATO? Is it negotiating with the European Union? Guido Steinberg, my colleague, was very clever. He didn't answer. He just looked at me and then continued. Today's Chatham House director, she was a former journalist. She came to me and said, classical British style, I love this British policy. It's really, you have to know the British policy. Professor Bağcı, congratulations. It was rightly a very good question, but no answer as you imagined. I said, yes. Who was instrumental to provide the weapons to Turkey, Eurojet fighter? Britain. Keir Starmer was here before German Prime Minister, and they made it sure that the Germans do not change their minds. Britain has been so many years the advocate of Turkey in the European Union affairs. It was actually Germany before. Now, after British left the European Union, the Germans are trying to get this role again. But European security depends on 4 countries: America, Great Britain, Russia, and Turkey. If you take these 4 countries, none of them members of the European Union. So, they are not members of the European Union, but they are strategically and militarily very important. This is why, at the moment, in this strategic architecture of European Union or Europe altogether, that Turkey is again in the game. Looking to Turkish foreign policy from the perspective how Turkey is going to organize somehow her position within this new world order, which is not existing yet. But we have the existing world order from 1945, which is totally violated by Russia and by Israel. What Israel does cannot be accepted from the international consciousness. Even here, nobody can accept that you use weapons against the civilians, children, etc. Is one point. Or Russian invasion in Ukraine. Thousands of people are migrants now. The people are running out. Soldiers are killed from both sides. The war is there, as one Saudi foreign minister in Doha conference said 2 years ago. He said, "This is your Afghanistan." Russian-Ukrainian war. He said, "This is your Afghanistan." In the heart of Europe, that we have the war, it was unimaginable a couple of years ago. And the new generation of Europe, ladies and gentlemen, the students here, you are so lucky generation now. We do not fear Russian threat. If you would be students in Norway, Denmark, Finland, Sweden, probably you would take every day how to protect yourself against against Russian intervention. Thanks God we don't have this problem. It all depends from which perspective you look, as I said. Looking from the perspective of Russia, the Turkish-Russian relations, historically speaking again, very controversial. Since 1774, Küçük Kaynaşa Treaty, Russia and Turkey became neighbors on the Black Sea. We eat the same fish, Hamsi and the others, Hamsi, Palamut, etc. But what is more important, Turkey controls the domination of Dardanelles and Bosporus. 20 July 1936, Turkey got the sovereignty over the Bosporus and Dardanelles. The students from Siyasal Bilimler Fakültesi, they read Basmoran's edited book about Turkish foreign policy, which I teach also to my students. I use also this publication. Particularly the article by Kudret Özersay about the Bosporus, Dardanelles, very important one. From articles from 19 to 21 is telling what type of ships have to pass through Bosporus. And today there is a new discussion, but time has changed. You cannot be only the sovereign country because of Russian invasion. Turkey still insisted on it. In the last 2 years, in the Prague Security Conference, I was with Mr. Basat Öztürk, who is now permanent representative to NATO. He was speaking about the Black Sea, and this year, in June, it was Mustafa Pulat, who was he's also graduated from here, by the way, and my master student. He was speaking about Turkish policy in the Black Sea region. So, Russia and Turkey are good partners. Turkey is having nuclear plant production in Mersin Akbil. We will see when it will be finished. Probably 2028, the first reactor will be active. But Turkey got S-400s without using. This is the most expensive weapons that we buy. We did buy it, but we did not use it. What we got is ice cream. President Putin and President Erdogan, they were licking the ice cream in Red Square, which is the most expensive one, $2.5 billion. And it was a political compromise, S-400, because the Barack Obama administration was not willing to provide Patriots defense systems. We, the Turks, we all say we are patriots, we love our country, but we don't have Patriot missiles. To be patriot is one thing, to have the Patriot missiles another one. Why it is important now that Turkey is suddenly becoming in the American grand strategy important after Gaza, after the Iran-Israeli war, and now what happened in Syria. Just 1 year ago, President Ahmet al-Shara was a terrorist. Next Monday, he will be in White House, and he will be a politician. And I'm still interested to know how he will be treated will he be treated like the Serbian president? Just let him to sit on the chair and give him lectures, or Zelensky, or the European Union leaders, you know, they were sitting like one by one. We say either Cami İbri veya Tespih. So he was talking to them. I think he said, "You are a good guy." When they met first in Saudi Arabia, we have to follow what happens in the Middle East with Saudi Arabia. This guy is changing. In Netflix, there's a documentary about Prince bin Salman. He is calling himself Atatürk from Saudi Arabia. Making reforms, the women's freedom. Even he was inviting Jennifer Lopez here. He didn't come to Ankara to Külliye, but he was she was in Saudi Arabia. Very interesting. What we have to do as young generation, you should try to understand the spirit of time, zeitgeist. What changes? Why changes? How changes? And who are those people who changed these societies? This is something which you have to learn, I would say. Particularly Henry Kissinger's, my students have to read it anyway, but probably also the Siyasal students, Henry Kissinger's book, Diplomacy. The subtitle of it is the Mind of the Nations. Every nation, ladies and gentlemen, has a different mind. We could have similar minds, but not the same mind. The Turkish mind is different than Japanese. Japanese is different than Romanian. Azeri mind is different than the Kazakh. And the Russians are different anyway from everyone else. So what we have to try to understand why these minds of the nations is sometimes difficult to understand. I learned from Seyfi Tashan, the former president of Foreign Policy Institute. I was also 4 years president of this institute. He said to me when I was young and innocent in the 90s, he said, "Hüseyin, when you negotiate with the think tank directors of other countries, learn the history of this country, because every country is having different way of looking to the issues, and also learn their political culture. If you negotiate with a country and without knowing their political culture, understanding literature, then you lose." So this is always so when somebody comes to Turkey, do you like Turkey? Yes, I love Turkey. You didn't even come out from the plane. No, let be there and then talk. Seeing is always better than to get the talking, I would say. Chinese proverb is this. It's better to see once than to hear 1,000 times. Now, I told to Nihal Hanım that I will finish after 45 minutes, because I'm mostly speaking 3 hours, so my brain is planned for 3 hours talk, but we don't have so much time. Maybe question and answer period, I can answer to your some of your questions. Just a final conclusion. The world is in chaos. We have also chaos theories in international politics. I wrote an article about this with Şuaya Çıkalın about the chaos theories in the Middle East. Very interesting. Even the chaos has its logic. Okay? Like we learn every day. You learn from somebody more and from somebody less, doesn't matter. Learning is a process. Whether you learn more or less doesn't matter. What matters is that you learn. And we, Turkey, in this respect, the world is in chaotic conditions at the moment, and Turkey has to be strong. The weakness is not allowed under today's conditions. So after 2022, this balance of power policy, which Kissinger uses a lot, that Turkey was playing this balance of power role is important. When I was asked first time, when the war started, in television, the speaker asked me, should Turkey be the facilitator, mediator? I didn't hesitate even 1 second. I said, yes, of course. It is our historic responsibility that we have to do this. In our history, ladies and gentlemen, we never fought against Ukraine. You know why? Because there was no state called Ukraine. We have been always fighting against the Russians. But now we have Russians and the Ukrainians, and we have to play the role of mediator. And it was a very successful role when the Green Rain Deal was done. I think even the United Nations Secretary General Guterres came to Istanbul. And Istanbul is a nice place for negotiations, also for conferences. I love Istanbul, to go there, participate in the conference and come back, but not to live there. For me, Ankara is much better as a living state. Global South countries are very important. In 1949, Turkey rejected to participate in the first Afro-Asian conference with the argument that Turkey is a European country and has nothing to do with those former colonial countries, which was wrong. Now Turkey has not to repeat the same mistake, and does not. In Tianjin this year, as you saw, in China, President and Foreign Minister have been there. Turkey is not becoming member of BRICS. It will be not possible because we are member of NATO. Not becoming member of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. But these two institutions, they provide Turkey a much more maneuver space. We have to deal with them. We have to develop our relations with them. I would say this is why ASEAN countries are important, why Latin American countries are important. You have to develop this, I would say, curiosity. My dear colleague, Dr. Akbulut, gives always this example from a professor from Middle East Technical University. He said to the students, if you do have not curiosity, you cannot learn. Merak etmek. You have to ask yourself, why, how? If you are not curious, then don't study. Go to somewhere else. But here, if you want to become leader in future, bureaucrat, diplomat, politician, you have to get this. In 2024, Turkey was providing that Finland and Sweden join NATO. In 2022, the Finnish president at that time said to me in Helsinki, we had a conference organized by Körber Foundation. Even on that day, my statement is later on published. Maybe we can send it to the participants here. I said, don't worry, be happy. Turkey will say yes at the end, but you have to suffer a little bit. You have to wait. It's not just from one day to another, because we had PKK question at that time. And you know what? In Sweden, there was a coalition government, and there was one politician. She was Kurdish origin from Syria. And she was against Turkey. And I told to Swedish people, I said in the conference, make the elections, get you out, then Turkey will say yes. And the elections took place, she's not elected. So Turkey said yes to Sweden. To Finland, the president said to me, Professor Bağcı, please add to us. I said, I do my best, but I'm not decision maker. The Finnish foreign minister came to Ankara to meet Turkish foreign minister Mevlüt Çavuşoğlu. He's also graduated from here, by the way, was my former student. We met here in Ankara at Sheraton Hotel in the morning with one diplomat, former diplomat, one journalist, and I, from 8 to 10 o'clock. I told them what they have not to do. Not what they have to do, but what they have not to do. And after 2 years' time, Turkey said yes, and now the Russian position is changing, because from Norway to Finland and Sweden, this Baltic area has been now closed, and the Russians have to give certain military strength there. Two countries called flank countries of NATO in the historical context. This is Norway and Turkey. But there is no flank anymore, because it is filled now by Swedish and Finland. And this Turkish grand strategy, so far, I would say, is important. We have to develop a new security doctrine. We have to discuss more and evaluate in economic, military, human capital, technology. They are the important components of the new Turkish grand strategy. Everybody is here, for me, is very important. You never know who is becoming in future the leader of the country. You never know. In 1987, when Donald Trump was speaking to Larry King as businessman, nobody would think that one day he would be president. But watch it in Larry King, Donald Trump, 1987. If you see this, he said in the interview, it is ridiculous. He used 6-7 times the word ridiculous. It is ridiculous, he said. We provide the security of Saudi Arabia and Japan. We pay $200 billion in a year, while in America, the people, homeless people, are sleeping on the street. He said, it's ridiculous, ridiculous. And what he does now, exactly this. And I can tell you, even the New York Mayor, Mamdani, is not so much different than Donald Trump at the end of the day. Because he is an American, and he has to move himself within the American law and within the American political structure. The political, don't fall into the trap. When you read, this is against this, against that. It is not. Concrete example. We have the nuclear discriminate deterrence report. Discriminate deterrence report from 1988, and it was dealing with the American grand strategy against the Soviet Union. Gorbachev is a leader, who has been among these 18 academics, strategic thinkers, Henry Kissinger, Zbigniew Brzezinski, Noam Chomsky, the most anti-American foreign policy critical. He was there. They are all Americans, and the Americans are very clever to collect those people who are for and against, but they create a common mind later on. All those American critical, starting from Joseph Nye, once again, to Stefan Walz, they were all there when you look to the names. And this is very important. In Turkey, unfortunately, we cannot do it. This is our biggest mistake. Bizde, as in Turkish proverb, it says, un var, şeker var, su var, ama helva yapamıyoruz. This is the mindset. We have to change it. Inshallah, you can change. We couldn't change it so far, but I see that it is going on. One more, Turkey is trying to look in the future whether Turkey is further a security provider country or security or in search of security country, security consuming or security producing. My expectation is, again, whoever is in power now or in 10 years' time or 20 years' time, as one British philosopher said, we are all dead in the long run. Okay. Or one Iranian proverb, all the troubles are not forever. Don't worry. Be happy that there will be changes. The world is changing. What is not changed is the change. So be prepared for all these changes and challenges. I think we are not the other of Europe, technologically strategically. But we have in certain things a different mindset. But we are the only one. Since 1856, Congress, the Paris Congress, Turkey is a European state. Two countries, called, as Beribuzun says in this article, Westernistic countries, not Western countries. Westernistic. It means as if they are Western. Japan and Turkey. We are having different social structure, different religion, but the political values in the last 250 years are very important, that we are becoming a part of Europe. This is why we negotiate. Two books. One, I would say İsmail Can's book, Türkiye'de Geri Kalmışlığın Tarihi, and the foreign book by Erich Düker, Türkiye'nin modernleşme tarihi, the Turkish modernization history. Very important. When you read this and you see how this exchange with the West has been much more stronger. We are not Asian country per se or Arab country per se. You go there, when you go there, then you see the difference. So nothing wrong with this. I mean, this is maybe one of the problems. Yesterday I spoke at Atılım University and gave this example. The professor from Malaysia, Arun Rouhani, she was telling, she was also getting very angry. She said, you Middle East countries, you are so lazy, you do not have the same kind of understanding. She said, look, we ASEAN countries, 11 countries, we came together, established, and we have a rotation style presidential system. We debate our problems. She said, you are not able to do this. This is a mistake, etc. And the friends from Iran, from Syria, from Egypt, they were just looking like this. And this is very interesting. We stay in the West as the mindset. Is why we still play in the European Championship, bringing it again to Galatasaray. But we could play in African League, we could play Asian League. No, we play in the European League because we belong to there strategically, politically. 250 years of this democratization process, parliamentary system, is a very important experience. And please appreciate this in the long run. We teach Roman law. Roman law is very important. Here in this university, we have also this Roman law. Empires, ladies and gentlemen, of course, they try to continue their existence, and they take the institutions from the previous empires or states. The nation state is the biggest mistake, as one historian said, of the European history. Maybe this publication, Why Nations Fail, Daron Acemoğlu, Ulusların Çöküşü, is providing you an historical background how institutions are very important. Look here, this university has the history since 1859. Yesterday I spoke in one institution just established 30 years ago. 30 years ago and 170 years ago. Two different history, two different experiences. So maybe you should be aware of it. I think that the empires will decline, this is so, and we the Turks, we took certain institutions from the Ottoman Empire. All this military, post, medicine, whatever, all the doctors, they celebrate, they are all during the reform process of the 19th century after Tanzimat period. These nation states take the institutions of the former empires is not a shame. The Russians have the same, the French have the same, the British have the same, and this is what we have also done it, because it is not a shame to take the formal institutions unless you continue that those institutions are functioning. At the end of the day, history is merciless. If you make a mistake, you pay the price. That's why history is full of experiences, of mistakes and of success. That's why we have to read history. History reading is not cookbook reading. You cannot read it when you have sort of time just for relaxation. No, it is not. You have to read it in a very curious way. And British Prime Minister Macmillan was asked when he was Prime Minister to the journalists, he said, "But Mr. Prime Minister, what was your biggest trouble when you have been in power that you cannot control?" He said, "Events, my dear, events. You cannot control the events that happen, like earthquake. You can take the measures, but you cannot prevent it." This is the history, and this is the end of my talk. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Hocam, ağzınıza sağlık. Thank you so much for this very impressive lecture. Each time we learn a lot from you. Maybe we have to read more books to understand history, but onu fırlatmak değilsek, we cannot come to second level of your knowledge and experience. Let me leave the floor to the room for comments and questions. We have still time. Let's say we are expecting to finish at 3:30. 10, maximum 15 minutes for discussions, please. You can also introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Professor Bağcı. I am from Middle East Technical University, from Political Science Department, but I have taken Professor Bağcı's Turkish Politics course this semester. I want to intersect comparative politics and international politics perspective. Like as you said, world is changing, and as many scholars already said that we are in the age of democratic backsliding and erosion. It's kind of Huntington third way of democratization to third way of autocratization. So how we can connect a trend of democratic erosion, democratic backsliding, as different from the former sudden rupture like coup or autogops, to today's more incremental backsliding within the perspective of international politics.
Hocam, can we take a couple of more questions?
Sure,
Okay.
sure, please do.
For other questions and comments. Then we will give the floor to you for final remarks. Please.
Yeah.
I have a question. I didn't get to ask you the other day, so I'm asking it here. So what's your view? Is Turkey going to join the European Union? If so, when?
I start with this easy question. It's very easy answer.
So I think this was the final question and remark, right?
I'm sorry.
No, we can get one more, and then the floor is yours, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
My question is, what's your opinion on local politicians, international politics moves, like Ekrem İmamoğlu's and Mansur Yavaş meeting with other mayors from the world?
Okay. Easiest one.
Hocam, maybe the last
Yeah,
one.
the second round here.
Okay, second round. Buyurun.
First of all, easiest one. I'm not expert on domestic politics. I give my vote, but it is not my area. I'm not teaching domestic politics. But I can only tell you this. The latest publication by Zihni Erdem is publishing about the CHP and opposition. Then when you read the book, then you see Zihni Erdem imge yayınları. Then you get the mistakes of the opposition. Of course, I have my mind, Turkey should be the rule of law country, democratic country, transparent country, open country. It's also related to European Union question. Will Turkey become a member of the European Union? It lies on the stars, this membership date. I visited Süleyman Demirel, the former president, with two German academics who had a project, democracy in Greece, in Macedonia, and in Turkey. And in Güneş Sokak, in his house, we talked. It was 2011, by the way. And then he said, concerning this same question, said, yesterday is yesterday, today is today. Dündür, bugün bugündür. And German guy said, what it means? I said, how can I explain you in 1 minute this our political culture? Yeah? But he said, but tomorrow is another day. Today is today, yesterday is yesterday, but tomorrow is another day. You never know what happens. The European Union is a very important, successful institution ever created. Immanuel Kant, in his book Ewige Frieden or Eternal Peace, he was suggesting that European countries should come together and not fight against each other. This is very successful, and Mr. Barroso from Portugal, when he was Parliament President, he took Nobel Prize. I understand this, but I didn't understand why Barack Obama has taken Nobel Prize. He didn't do anything, and Donald Trump is right now that he demands Nobel Prize. European Union is an entity, as one Dutch politician said to me, in order to control Germany, like in the cage of a lion. If a lion is just standing very silently on the corner, it is not a problem. But if he is getting angry, then everybody is running. So it is the institution which is created to control Germany. In 1952, the German writer Thomas Mann, by the way, he's 150 years old this year, we celebrate. His book, Buddenbrooks, is very important. He's talking about the rich family and its fate. I would suggest anyone who wants to understand the German culture and society. He said in 1952 at the University of Hamburg, he said, you young people, he said, the students, do you want to get a Germanized Europe or Europeanized Germany? And Germany decided to be a Europeanized Germany, not Germanized Europe. Turkey is negotiating with the European Union. The chapters are open. Chapter 8, open and closed down. It was Nicolas Sarkozy who actually prevented further negotiations with the European Union. Now he is in prison. What I say now is not academic. Ne yaparsan yap, Türklerin bedduasını alma. You got our beddua. Now he's in prison. Yeah? The French president is in prison. We are not joining NATO, European Union, and it will be not the case, at least in my time. Next year I will get my pension, but I will be not a member of the European Union, I know this. We will be not a member of the European Union, but it doesn't matter anymore. It is not so important. We wish that we should be a member of the European Union because the system is functioning wrong. Why? In the European Union, all the decisions are taken unanimously, not majority. And I can assure you there are at least 2 countries who would oppose this. You know, the countries, very neighboring, nice neighbors of Turkey. One more, maybe within this context. We, the Turks, we think that everyone is wanting European Union. I remember my talk in Sivas University 10 years ago. A young girl, she is becoming first year elementary school teacher. She said, I don't want to join the European Union. She said, they all come to our country, make use of our flora, of our seas, rivers. They enjoy very cheap holiday here. And we, if you want to go to Europe, they put us so many documents necessary that we can do it. She said, I don't want. They shouldn't come. And I used this argument in several conferences in Europe. In 1999, Turkey became candidate. In the European Parliament, there were all this yes for Turkish membership. More than 500 journalists followed this. It was great. Turkey was a candidate country. In 2004, it was in the parliament we had two parties, AKP and CHP. Deniz Baykal was in opposition. Prime Minister Tayyip Erdoğan was on the way to Brussels, with whom we was negotiating Tony Blair, Jacques Chirac, Schröder, Gerhard Schröder, and then the Italian, I would say the classical, yes, Casanova, I would say, Italian one. And what Deniz Baykal said to Erdogan is this: go there and negotiate. You have my full support to represent the Turkish interest there. And he used one phrase. And remembered Tayyip Erdogan. He said, don't forget. It is the sentence of Abdülhamid II actually. Kurtlar sofrasında menelmez. This is the table of the wolves. Don't play the role of the sheep. All the others will eat you. And this is important. If you represent the country, you have to full support of the opposition and you negotiate. And 2004, Turkey got the date in 3rd of October. This is the German unification day, by the way. The 3rd of October 2005, Turkey signed the negotiations, Verhandlungen in German. And she was my colleague actually was in Treasury at that time, and Finance Minister was Mr. Babacan. And Babacan signed the agreement, of course, before Tayyip Erdoğan and President Gül signed it. And what is interesting here, Turkey was not anymore receiving the development aid from the European Union because Turkey changed the league from aid receiving countries to negotiation countries. Professor Murat Erdoğan wrote his PhD about the customs union. Customs union was a good one because the Turkish industry learned how to compete. That today the customs union has to be renewed is very important, and there are some reactions. If you want to get a very negative position of the policy of European Union towards Turkey, you read the book by Selim Yener. He was representative of Turkey to European Union. When you read the book, you understand this. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2016, 18 March 2016, Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoğlu was together with Angela Merkel and now NATO Secretary General Rutte. He was Dutch Prime Minister at that time. In the Turkish, in the House of Turkish European Union representative. It was long negotiations and it became around 1:30 in the morning and they got hungry. What they have done? They went to a Turkish döner kebab house, ordered the kebab and lahmacun, and under lahmacun and kebab sticks, they were further negotiating. So this is not easy. To negotiate with the European Union is a long process, 80,000 pages. All this acquis communautaire. Murat Erdogan knows better than about this. Maybe that we are not becoming member of the European Union can relieve certain people in Europe. But it is better now that we are not, because we do not use the sanctions against Russia. If we would be member of the European Union, then we had to follow the rules of the European Union. But at the end of the day, should Turkey become a member of the European Union? Yes. When? Tomorrow. Yesterday is yesterday, today is today, but tomorrow is another day. And all the Turkish people pray that the European Union is getting weaker and weaker, that the need for Turkey is getting more. Okay, the last one, really last one. Zbigniew Brzezinski wrote 3 articles in the publication National Interest in 2000, 3 publications. Living with a New Russia, Living with a New China, and Living with a New NATO. He said that if Turkey would join in the year 2001 the European Union, the general per capita income in the European Union would be $16,000 for each. And Turkey would be a net contributor for the European Union. Nobody can convince me that Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, Kosovo, or Serbia is much better than Turkey. What is it? Yeah? Istanbul is bigger than all of them. İmamoğlu is much stronger, much richer than the Prime Minister of Romania or Bulgaria. We are $1 trillion economy, ladies and gentlemen. We are 18th economy in the world. What are we talking about? I mean, the houses here in Ankara, here and Çayyolu and until Temelli, if you go there, I mean, Romania is underdeveloped, yeah? With all my respect. With all my respect. Albania, Kosovo, Serbia, name it. They don't have highways, yeah? You cannot go from Belgrade to Novi Pazar, yeah? Here you take the car and go until Kars. Don't underestimate the power of the Turks. Sometimes we make really wrong that we just glorify European Union as, I mean, take it Denmark, 5.5 million people. Here in this country, every year we have more than 1.2 million children going to school. Yeah. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. What is it? I mean, 1.7 million. Here in Ankara, Çankaya has 2 million. Yeah? When I appear on television, I speak to 90 million people. In Malta, even you can speak just 600,000 people. What is it? So the value is different. European Union as a together is a powerhouse, not one by one. So, Peter, thank you for the question. Concerning the democracy. In the 80s, we had for Turkey the definition deficit democracies. Professor Gülistan Gürbey wrote the book about this. These deficit democracies are the countries which had to develop themselves in certain fields. Later on, remember President Erdogan, at that time Prime Minister, was talking about the ileri democracy. Yeah? From deficit democracy, progress democracies. How far we are progress is another question now. Is the domestic politics, I skip it. But your question here, Huntington wrote also the book about the military and democracy, one of the first books in the 70s. When you read this, then you see the experiences from Latin America to Africa and how the military is coming to power. But we have the last publication by Anne Applebaum. She is the wife of Polish Defense Minister Skorsky, journalist, American journalist. She wrote the book Autocracy, 2024, published, perfect. She is dealing with the autocratic states from Maduro to Putin, including some other countries which is not far from here. How the autocrats are cooperating with each other. Don't think that the autocrats are not in touch with each other. They are cooperating with each other. They make copy-paste policies when you look. The book is very interesting, and Applebaum, Autocracy is the title. Francis Fukuyama wrote about the problems of the democracies. He wrote also the book Trust, Güven in Turkish, İş Bankası yayınları. He was trying to tell how democracy is functioning even in certain Asian countries, like Singapore, like Malaysia, like Indonesia. And Fukuyama is so far the most wrong analyzing person of the international events, but he became so rich, reaching this wrong analysis in his book, The End of History. He wrote The End of the History. Actually, it is the article 10 as a book, The History and the Last Man. He said democracy is winning. Now today we see the problems of the democracy as the question particularly puts in. The other one, Michael Mandelbaum, he wrote the ideas that changed the world. Socialism, democracy, liberalism, democracy, and Islam. John Mearsheimer wrote about the fallacy of or the liberal delusion. John Mearsheimer is anti-American in his policy, in his analysis. I know John Mearsheimer. We have been together in Valdai Club. All the day we spent in Sochi, at the former house of Stalin, in his dacha. Very interesting. I saw where Stalin was sleeping, and in his room he was sleeping, and his security man was there, and he liked to play billiard. Okay, and the only person whom he could defeat was his gardener. So he was always playing with his gardener because he was always losing against the others. And those who have defeated him, of course, landed in Ashkelon, yeah, was his labor camps. This, in the 21st century, ladies and gentlemen, the democracies will be very difficult systems to contain. It is a very problematic area for the democratic countries. But at the end of the day, as Winston Churchill said, democracy is the second best system. The first one, the best one, has not yet invented. Democracy is a country, if in the morning at 5 a.m. your door is knocked and that the man is coming, his milkman, then you live in a democracy, it means in England. But if it is 5 o'clock in the morning and your door is knocked and you open it and the police came, then you are a journalist. You get your answer? Okay.
Hocam, time is over, but I think there's one more question there, so we can get it and then finish.
Yes, because I have another lecture
yes,
at 6.
and you are getting tired, we know. Yes. Sorry for that.
No
Very
time.
short.
The word tireless I don't accept, but I have another
Very
picture.
short one, please.
Okay.
Okay, Hocam, thank you for the lecture. It was so good. You talk about for leading countries, and you talk about India as well. So, considering these two, the Turkey and the India, what you see in the future about the relations and as a developing countries, two countries?
First of all, I like India. I love India, and as BBC advertisement, incredible India. I learned a lot from two civilizations, one Chinese and the other one Indian, because I am educated from the Western civilization. We are all in this civilization. But looking from the other perspective, it brings you much more awareness. For example, for the Swedish people, we are Eastern countries. But for China, we are Western country. For Mongolia, we are Western neighbor. It is always nice discussion when I talk with the Armenian friends abroad. They want to call the Eastern Anatolia Western Armenia. Our discussion is like this. You know, Professor Bağcı, Western Armenia is this. I said, oh, of course, in Eastern Anatolia. So we have two demographic, geographic definitions, but we understand each other what is going on. India is coming up, but still not like China. The Chinese modernization is unique. India has to go far, far long way to become such developed. Now they are number one country concerning the population. They overcome China. China will be in 2050 850 million people. Population is decreasing, and is a big problem. China today, ladies and gentlemen, signed agreement for workers from Uzbekistan and from Kenya. China is interesting, coming up as the rival of United States of America. Definitely, I understand Donald Trump, why he's considering China competitor or enemy. But these two countries, they will not fight against each other. This is my view. India is a coming country, no doubt about it, but they have also troubles with China, border problems also. And the problem of China, of India is they are somehow a little bit landlocked, you know? So they have the sea, yes, but when you look to their neighboring countries, China, Afghanistan, Central Asia, it's very problematic. But today, you know, the Indians mostly go to Azerbaijan. The Hotel Hyatt in Bağcı, 70% is full with Indians. They celebrate their marriage there. Usually they were coming to Antalya, 3 airplanes full and celebrating there. Now Azerbaijan is their target. India is, I visited 4 times India, by the way. I met also their foreign minister, just was in defense minister, spoke at several universities, Delhi University, Mumbai University, trade chambers, etc. I read about India. I'm not India expert, but I have a lot of readings, of course, about India and follow the Indian developments. But India is a nuclear power, and India is becoming a regional hegemon together with China. Maybe I finish this with my personal experience. In 2000, I was invited by the Indian Foreign Ministry as a state guest, and 5th of October 2000, I met Foreign Minister Jaswant Singh in his office. India, Pakistan developed at that time very newly nuclear power, a nuclear bomb. Saudi Arabia, you know, they signed this agreement, which is very interesting now. And we talk. I have the picture from that day. You know, my hair was black at that time, not like white now, looking younger. I put simple question. I said, Mr. Foreign Minister, Now Pakistan is also nuclear power. Would you expect any nuclear war between Pakistan and India? Because they have other negotiations going on. He said, Professor Bağcı, in our culture, he said, we don't have first strike tradition. It means we are not attacking. And then he said, but definitely we have second strike capability. It means when they start, then we will respond. I said, thank you. It means there will be no war between Pakistan and India in nuclear terms. But today we have 11 countries, nuclear weapons, including Israel. It is a dangerous situation. I find it also very dangerous that America will start nuclear tests again. The future is chaotic again. I'm very optimistic in my character, but the world is getting in a very interesting era. Mehmet Öğütçü's publication, Çılgın Liderler Dönemi, Çılgın Liderler Çağı, is something that we have to read to understand why we have political leaders which are much more dangerous than we used to have. Thank you very much. It's more than enough.
Ağzınıza sağlık. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Sizi inşallah bir kez daha burada görmek
İnşallah.
mümkün olur. Bütün katılımcılara da çok teşekkürler. Öğrenci arkadaşlarımıza, misafirlerimize. Politika ve ekonomi bölümünün diğer seminerlerini, etkinliklerini takip etmenizi isteriz. Her seferinde böyle kıymetli hocalarımızı misafir etmeye devam edeceğiz. Çok teşekkür ederim.
Ama beni tercihler onu söyleyeyim. Tebrik ediyorum.
Çok teşekkür ederim.
Sağ olun.
Ağzınıza sağlık.